Okay, y'all. I am here today to talk to you about the pre-production stage of Clocked and some of my meaning behind things and process and timeline. I'm very excited to share this with y'all, and thank you for coming. So let's get into it. First, I have to mention that I filmed this entire video, 75% of this video, and I realized my fly was down. And you could see it. I wasn't sitting like this. So it's fine. Okay. So if you haven't seen Clocked, go watch it. It's on this channel, my YouTube channel. And it is briefly about a girl who has given up drag because of life and political situations and blah, blah, blah. But she's given up drag and her drag persona is like haunting her. Basic description of the movie, the film, the short film. Okay, so let's start from the beginning. 3 years ago, yes, I said it, 3 years ago, I came up with the idea of a girl coming home from grad school and she is haunted by her former selves. And there were definitely some issues with that as far as like logistics of me making that happen. Number one thing, I don't know any child actors or any children that I could put in this film. And I don't know if I'm ready to work with child actors like that. Just in the sense of like, I want to be a good leader and creative that works with a lot of compassion for child actors. So I just don't think I was like, I had the skill level to be able to do that for a child actor. So I was like, that's out of the picture. How can I rework this to make this something I can do? So long time passed. I just kind of let that idea sit there, and a long time passed. And then this past summer, I did The Artist's Way. And one of the big themes in The Artist's Way was your inner critique and kind of like the things you tell yourself to stop you from being a creative or stop you from creating. And I really wanted to play with that because that was one of the things out of that book that I actually really related to and was helpful. So I kind of took the idea of like the girl coming from grad school and being haunted by her like former selves, like, and I kind of had the idea of like, what would it look like if I wasn't an artist anymore, if I decided not to create? Like, what would happen if I didn't pursue directing and acting? And my first like reaction was definitely like, that shit would haunt me. That shit would haunt me. It would be a huge regret in my life if I look back and I was like, I could have done this, I could have tried this, I could have enjoyed this, I could have created in this way, but I chose not to. I didn't even try it out. So I think that was something where I really, really played off the like, I would not be able to let go of my like creative self. And so the whole like concept of like Jenna versus Madame Spectre is like this inner critic, but also the creative self. which I think is very true for me of like, those are kind of the same thing right now. And I need to separate those two people. That way, like, I can just create freely and enjoy my creations. So the whole idea with like Madam Spectre versus Jenna was that like Jenna's the full person, and then Madam Spectre is the inner critic, creative self that Jenna doesn't want to acknowledge or accept, like as a full part of herself, like as part of herself. And the theme of the story is her like figuring out how to accept that, or moving past the inner critic to get to the creative part. So really, it wasn't. Oh, one other thing. So during and before The Artist's Way, it's hard that I started this script, like the concept was obviously there before I started The Artist's Way, but The Artist's Way really like enhanced it. But I was kind of in a place where I was like, I have no ideas, I'm barren, I have nothing left to give, no more creativity, like I cannot think of another good idea. And my senior year of college, I was a fine arts major, and one of my classmates for their senior show, they were like, could not come up with anything, or having major artist block, blah, blah, blah. And finally she just got to the point where she was like, okay, I'm going to create art about my artist block. Ingenious. So that was definitely like an inspiration too of like, I don't know what to create, what am I feeling right now? I'm feeling the artist block, so write about that. And that was definitely like a big inspiration for mine. So thank you to that classmate. But it wasn't really until like March 2025 that I was like putting it all together and being like, okay, here is the first like serious nugget of my idea. And I created the log line. A woman struggles with her regret as an artist, as her inner artist actually haunts her. And that would be the log line. If you don't know what a log line is like a sentence, maybe two max, that describes your film in a very like marketable way. So it's not for you necessarily to like summarize your film. It's more of like, how can you communicate the antithesis of your film in a marketable way? Log lines are mainly used to sell your scripts or sell your movie to people. So, but for me, I was just like, kind of good practice to practice writing long lines, and really, it was a way for me to like really hone my idea and make it more concise. So I came up with the idea in March. I think it took me a couple months to do the script, probably like a month or two. It really wasn't too long, and maybe it'll come as I get used to writing script and I learn more about writing scripts and experience that. But I definitely had like, I don't know, I just felt like I wasn't doing enough for the script. Like, I think I wrote like the first draft. I did like a second draft by myself where I like went through and just kind of like enhance. Like I didn't make any like major changes where I was like, whoa, this is a totally new script. I feel like people talk about that a lot with scripts. Where they're like, oh yeah, the original script was so much different than the final product. So I don't feel like my script like changed a ton. I think like now that I've like experienced like the whole thing, I definitely would go back and like in my future scripts, even the ones that I've like written prior to this film, like I'm going to go back now and like really like enhance. Like I think I didn't have enough content. Like I feel like I was at a very bare bones point with my script where like if I were to like redo this movie at this point right now, I think I would go back in and do like it needs more jokes. Like there should be very few lines that aren't centered around a joke or a pun or whatever. And I think too, like I think I could have done more with the script to build out the story instead of just kind of giving you like a flat like here's what it is. Like I think it was like, and I will definitely talk about this in like production stage, but I think a lot of my experience with making this film was I was very much like checking boxes because I was just trying to experience things or get things done and not necessarily like being super intentional or overly creative with like each decision. It's more of just like, I gotta get this done, I'm gonna get this done, finish task, move on. And I think in the future, like I want to make sure I'm giving myself like time to overanalyze things and time to experiment with things or even like within the script. Like I think I could have done like a longer script and then cut things down enough if I needed to. But I was definitely like with my script, like I didn't have any extra fluff to it. And I kind of need the right kind of fluff, if that makes sense. So basically I kind of had like 3 drafts. I had my first draft, the draft I went through, and then I had a draft where Mike went through and it edited things or helped me like work through jokes and things like that. So he definitely helped on the script. So the next stage was script analysis. I really wanted to go through like the traditional, natural, like creative process of directing. So even though I did write this script, I did want to come back and be like, I kind of gave it time where I was like, I'm not going to look at this for a month. And then I came back and like, okay, let's do a script analysis. And I kind of was coming back to it with like fresh eyes. So within the script analysis, like I like to mark up shit. So like it was a lot of highlighting of like blue is character development for Jenna and green is character development for Madam Spectre. And sorry, I'm literally in kind of like a public place. So, or major like plot points, like major parts of the story, tone cues, directing cues, that type of thing. So it's like really just like pointing out all of that stuff. My second pass on the script analysis is more of like, okay, now I've pointed out all those parts. What can I do as a director to enhance the story through these like specific points? How can I enhance the Jenner character every time she has like a character moment? Can I frame it a specific way or use a specific tone or whatever? Light it a specific way. So that was a lot of just like mind dump of like directing ideas and that type of thing. Which I will say, I write a lot of my scripts with like the directing in mind so far. I think I want to get to the point where I'm just like writing scripts and then I go into director mode. And again, that's something I think I really want to work on and moving forward with my films is really being present and in that creative mode. Like when I'm writing, I'm just in writer mode. I'm not thinking about the directing part. And then when I'm directing, I'm not thinking about the writing part. I'm just in director mode. So, so a lot of the directing notes were kind of in the script, I guess, and I would like to, moving forward, like take that out. That way I can give myself like a fresh, like, okay, you know, I thought this at one point, but I don't have to stick with that. I can do something totally different that like makes more sense or is more creative or whatever. So I did the script analysis. My next thing, which I always want to do this first because it's my favorite part of brainstorming, but I can't until you do all the other stuff. But I created a mood board, which I will post, like put in this video. And the point of my mood board was to find like visual inspiration for lighting, costume, because I knew I wanted to do this short in my house. That was kind of like part of the requirement is I was like, I'm just going to do it in my house. That way I can have a lot of flexibility with filming, blah, blah, blah. So normally I would do like a mood board for like setting aesthetics, blah, blah, blah. But I didn't really feel like it was necessary because I basically just had pictures of my house on separate parts of the mood board. So the top one I have is, so the white mood board I have has like the makeup look, some character like costume outfits, like especially like the Rocky Horror was very like a big inspiration for this film. I love Rocky Horror and so that was a huge inspiration for like the makeup and costuming and that kind of stuff. And then you can see like my really early like sketches of like what I wanted the shape of my makeup to be and that kind of thing. I think I ended up changing the colors because I wanted to go like more on theme, which I will get into that production side because that's a whole thing. But so main point of my mood board was makeup, costuming, lighting, and I specifically was kind of concerned and really had the goal of like working on special effects, like trying special effects and learning how to do special effects. And so a lot of this mood board is like, what do I want this ghost to look like? Which is silly. But a lot of my idea with the lighting mood board is I really wanted kind of like a stoplight look. At the time, and I still am, like I love a red, green, yellow color palette. I love it. Specifically the film, I really, really loved the like red versus green, but it's very like cool, poppy. Like it ended up being more of like a teal and pink, which I was so happy with. I was really like, that was another thing that I wanted to be very intentional about, and I was like focusing on for this film was the lighting and figuring out lighting and understanding the basics of like lighting a scene, and then also playing around with some like very like artistic lighting. So my idea with the lighting was that I wanted to be very intentional and symbolic with the lighting. So green really represents safety, comfort. Oh God, what's the word I'm looking for? It starts with a C. Contentment. Got it. Just being like content. And then red really represented like vulnerability and passion and a little bit of fear, question mark. And I think that's something too where like, it's not like the red, and which I also related, like Madame Spectre was very like red coded. And then Jenna, like her lighting was more green coded for her. And I didn't want it to be a situation where it was like red is bad and green is good. Especially in the sense of like, if I'm coding the characters, like I don't think Madame Spectre or Jenna are like there's not really a villain. Like I didn't want it to be like a villain situation where like Madame Spectre's coming to get you. It's like you kind of want, like you like Madame Spectre better than Jenna, hopefully. But also like, obviously like as an artist, I relate to Jenna a lot of being like, I'm just gonna be done with this and I'm just gonna live a normal life. But then also knowing that like, even if you tried to do that, like it would not make you happy. It would not be fulfilling. Like it wouldn't work out the way you wanted it to work. So I didn't want it to feel like it's like a red, bad, green, good. But I really, really loved playing around with the lighting and like, especially like playing around with like, and you can see it in my mood board, like this room is totally green and then this room is totally dark and this section of the room is totally red. And so it looks like 3 like cells of like color separating like foreground, background, middle ground kind of thing. So I will say I'm really proud of I'm really proud of my lighting in this film, considering like I've never fucking done real lighting before. And I had a lot of fun with it. I'm really excited to like play around with more projects because by the end I was like green and red again. But I mean, I really liked the way the film turned out visually. And I think that was something too where I was like really considering like, okay, I want this type of lighting. What do I want the color grading to look like? And that was an aspect of my mood board too. It's like, I really wanted these like moody, deep shadows, very saturated, very, I don't know, it kind of gives me like, in a good way, in a way that I like a, like 2000s, 2010s, like B horror movie type vibe to it, which I think is really fun. But, so that was kind of my idea for the visuals as far as like lighting and color grading. Costuming. I had so much fun with costume. I really didn't have a like specific visual, like I think I wanted it to be like a vintage drag or like antique drag. Like I didn't want it to be like modern drag where she was like wearing modern clothes, wearing modern makeup. Like I kind of wanted it to be a combination of like, you know, obviously like Jenna exists in the present time, but it's a ghost. And on top of it too, like it's a like past self type thing. So I kind of wanted to play around with like more like period costuming. And I found at a vintage shop a really, really cute flapper dress that like looked like, it was definitely like not an original 1920s flapper dress, but I think it was like a 1970s, and it was like pretty true to what later flapper dresses actually looked like. I didn't want like a situation where it was like the tassels all the way down. Like I wanted like a traditional like column shape, and it has the tassels on the end, and then it has all the like geometric like Art Nouveau type like patterns on it. So loved that. Saw that and I was like, okay, this is the direction we're going for Madame Spectre. And it really reminded me of, so especially in America during the Prohibition era, like 1920s, 1930s, there was a big surge, I guess, in drag balls, and it was called the pansy craze. And it was a big like time for drag people doing drag to come together, and it was all types of drag. It was like drag kings, drag queens, like queer people going to these balls. And I mean, it was Prohibition, so it was easy. You already had like these like secret bars or secret party type things. And so basically during this pansy craze, like it was really huge for queer people or people in those spaces to do drag. And I think it's just this interesting, I think it's just such an interesting like aspect of history in the sense of like the 20s and 30s were kind of this, like we had this feeling of excess. We were kind of getting out of like the Art Deco, Art Nouveau, like art movements, which were all about like excessive details and excessive craftsmanship and just like more is better mentality, like maximalism. And then you kind of get into the Great Depression, which Art Deco kind of like falls into the Great Depression a little bit, but it wasn't like the average person wasn't consuming or buying like Art Deco type stuff because it was a Great Depression. So obviously like during the Great Depression, like the police got a lot stricter and that stuff kind of like went underground even more so than it was, because obviously like society was like, we're not having this. So I think it's just this really interesting like reflection of history of like the pendulum swinging back and forth of like us being really liberal in the 1920s and part of the 1930s, and then us going like really conservative after we feel like financial hardship as a nation. And how much that affected like culture and queer culture. So next, after the mood board, I started doing storyboarding. And my goal with storyboarding was really to, one, sketch out lighting, two, sketch out composition of frame, and three, show camera movement. Obviously, this isn't anything like I'm not doing anything different than any other director. Like, I'm not reinventing the wheel or anything, but that shit took me forever. Like, literally, that was like majority of my brainstorming time was just like sketching out the storyboards, figuring out, and then I sketched them all out, and then I like copy and pasted them, because I do it all in like this notebook app where you can like, it's like digital. And so I like sketched it all out, and then I like copy and pasted it, and then did lighting, because there were a couple times. I originally had it flipped where Jenna was red and Madam Spectre was green, but the dress I found for Madam Spectre was red, so it's like, I gotta flip that. And I felt like the green versus red just worked better in that way. So I redid the storyboards a couple times, honestly. And then I wrote out the specifics, and then I created a shot list. And I think the challenge with that was trying to decide like how I was going to execute the Madam Spectre parts, because they are all special effects. So kind of what the conclusion I ended up coming to is I did all of Jenna's scenes by herself first. And then I did the Madam Spectre, the genocide of Madam Spectre's scenes after that. And then I was going to film the Madam Spectre scenes like in front of a green screen, totally separate. And they were gonna be on like separate days. That way, like I could do full makeup and blah, 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 and not have to worry about. Because originally I was like, I'm gonna try to place the camera in the same spot, and then I will record Jenna doing that spot, and then I'll go up and do all my makeup for Madam Spectre, and then come down and record that scene, which especially too, like that's a lot of work for like a 5-second shot of Madam Spectre. And I was just like, how am I gonna guarantee that I can like line it up correctly, all this stuff. And I just, like one day I just had an epiphany, and I was like, I'm overcomplicating this, and I just need to use a green screen. And I did. So I created that shot list, and then I created props and supplies list, and I started scheduling because we were about ready to film. So that's where I will end this video. But I don't know. I would love to hear your thoughts and questions on the pre-production stage. I feel like I talked about a lot, but also not everything. And I don't know. I am very much like, I love to sit around and brainstorm and do like prep work. Like, I feel like the most creative part for me is doing the prep work and coming up with the ideas and like figuring all of that out. And I love doing that stuff. And then it was a little bit of a struggle for me to execute this, just in the sense, I mean, there's a lot of reasons, and I'll get to that in the production video, but I don't know. I had a lot of, it took me a while. And I had to be patient with myself. But we got it done. And back to my point, I really love the pre-production stage. Probably my favorite part of doing a film. But I hope that changes. I hope in the future, my favorite part of doing a film is the production stage. And we'll see about that. I think I just need like practice doing all this stuff, and then I can come back and be like, yes, this is my favorite stuff part. Because the pre-production stage is just stuff, like all that stuff is like pretty close to home as far as like my creativity before I started doing directing. Of like working by myself, like doing a lot of conceptualizing, like a lot of visual stuff and blah, blah, blah. I think once I get the skill level to do, like, to have fun with production, then I will have fun with production. So, I don't know. Let me know your thoughts. Thank you for listening to my video. I hope you have a great day. Do something creative today. Even if it's just research or watching a fun video. that inspires you. Maybe it's this. Maybe this is your creative thing today. Have a great day. That's it. That's all I got. Have a great day. Bye.